Well, let's start dimensioning this drawing. So you should have created two dimension styles in the practice file that I gave you. If not, you will need to create them here in this drawing. And some changes to your multi-leader style, and I'll go ahead and show you what that would be. On the content page, text height should be 0.125. Text style should be standard because that's what we're using in our dimension style. Leader structure, that's all good. I've changed my landing distance down to 0.25. Leader format, arrowhead size should be 0.125. Okay, and everything else in there can stay the same. Okay, so on our dimension style, I put a note in there that I want you to symbols. There we go. I want you to set none for center marks, because I discussed it in a previous video as to how if that is turned on and you create a radius or a diameter dimension, it places a center mark along with the dimension, which means you have two center marks, one on top of the other. So we want to turn those off in both of those dimension styles. Now I want to set the small radius current, and you could do it there, you could do it up here in the pull down, because that's one we're going to be using. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate doing this in paper space, because really, why set your text size to 1/8 of an inch and then print it at 1/16 inch? So we're gonna dimension in paper space. If you've downloaded and watched the tutorial videos from the publisher, they're doing everything in model space. Okay, and I much prefer it in paper space. Okay, so we're going to start. So a lot of the tools, I'll be using the toolbar over here a lot, or you've got dimensions here, you've got your linear, and if you hit the pull down there, you've got a few others there. The continue here, the pull down it, you can switch back and forth between continue and baseline. The pull down here, there's a couple of other really rarely used ones down there. The other option is on the menu bar up here, is that dimension tab, and here is your whole list of them here. The keyboard commands for dimensioning get a little complicated because a lot of them start with DIM, and dim linear is a linear dimension, dim aligned, dim ALI, dim continue. So they get kind of confusing. So I rarely use keyboard shortcuts on doing dimensioning. So let's start. We're going to start with our front view because that's where most of our detail and stuff is. And so let's start with a linear dimension here. Oh, I turned my object snaps off. Let me turn those back on. And I want that to be at about 0.4, so I'm dragging out. So I'm going to type 0.4 and then press enter. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. For some reason it didn't work. So let's delete that and start over. So what we can, and this is kind of weird the way it snaps, but we can place it right on the edge and then come back in and select it and drag it out. Now we can say 0.4 and it will move it out. That's the preferred distance out from the edge of the object. Oh, I forgot to say when I started, I set my layer to dimension layer, and on your annotate tab, this right here should be use current. Okay. So So next up, and if you're looking at the dimensioned ISO view in the textbook, and if you watch the instructional videos on dimensioning from the publisher, a lot of things that are dimensioned like on this surface plane in an ISO would go into the front view. And so you kind of have to think about where you're going to put these things as you're doing it. So next up, I want to dimension this the location for the circle, and I'll do that using a continue dimension. And I could hit it here, I could hit it right over here. And what that does is it takes from my last dimension that I placed, and it just continues a dimension up. So what I want to do is I want to pick where the center line crosses the circle, or the quadrant. And that's, why is my text sticking way out there? That's weird. Let me check my dim style setting. I don't know what happened to that. Somehow I have an error in there. Okay. That really was weird. Okay, so when you're dimensioning to the corner of the object, there should be a gap. But when you're dimensioning to the circle, the extension line and the center line should join as one. And the best way to do that is to hit the quadrant point of the circle so that the center line overlaps onto it. Okay. Next, we've got some dimensions up here, and so let's do the, what is it, 0.12. Come on. And I'm just going to place it on that corner, and then select it and drag it up the 0.4, and then move that 1.2 inside the arrowheads there. Okay, now let's do a baseline dimension to get the 2.7. So I'll come over here and I'll use my baseline command, and it's picking the end that I don't want. So on my keyboard, I'll hit, and if you notice in the command line, your option is select or undo. So I'm going to hit S for select, and then pick the right side of that dimension, and then come down and pick that corner. Okay, and so that placed it the appropriate spacing out. Now I can go back to my continue dimension, and I got to select again this side, and I want to go with the 0.6. Okay. And I want to drag it down inside there. Okay, I got those. Okay, we've got the 0.25 coming down, and I'm putting this one up in line with the 2.7 simply because there'd be an arrowhead right there. Okay, so now then let's come to this point and this point, and I can't really, I mean, I guess I could get a snap there maybe. Let's see how this works, and then I'll drag it out. See, that didn't really work. It just moved the text out to the right side. So I'm going to delete that one and start over with it. Sometimes you just have to eyeball these things when you're dealing with the weird ones, and so I'll just kind of eyeball it to kind of get it the same as the 1.2 is up. So that looks kind of good there. Okay. Now then, one of the things with these is they're on two sides. And so we're going to edit, double click the text, and if it doesn't go to the left side there, you can hit home on your keyboard and it will go to the left side of the text box. And we'll go to capital X and a space. And then I want to do this one also. Okay. Now a problem here is, you see here, this has got the lines and the arrowheads on the inside. And so let's select that when you go to Properties and scroll down to Fit, Dim Line Inside. So let's turn that off. Well, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Okay, we'll just skip those things. All right, let's see, we got the 2.7 there. Okay, so let's do an overall dimension for the overall length, and we'll use a baseline dimension off of the 2.7 for that. So let's go to our baseline, and we'll need to select the 2.7 and then come across to hit this corner here and then escape. Okay, so that's got our front view, well, not totally dimensioned, but pretty close. And you can see we've got some problems with things being too close to each other. So we want to move the top view up, and probably move the right side view over also. So what we'll do, I'm going to save my drawing first, and then let's activate model space. Well, let me show you a little something before we start here. Let's see. I've got construction lines here. With the way that these drawings came in, we graded your actual drawing before we're grading your dimensions in this particular one. Going forward, that may be a little different in that we'll be grading the whole drawing and the dimensions at the same time. So you need to move your construction lines along with your view. And so I'll turn construction on, and let's activate model space. Make sure ortho mode is turned on. And I want to come up here and I want to use a crossing window from right to left, so that I'm selecting everything here. And I want to be real careful not to get that dimension. Okay. And now what we'll do is we'll use our move command and pick a base point and come straight up, and let's go about, I don't know, that was like 1.5 inches, so we'll go like 1.5 inches up. Okay. And now let's do the same thing over here on the right. And we'll go move. We don't really have to go 1.5 inches, but kind of visually move it over a little bit. And you may have to turn off your object snap. You can go F3 on the keyboard, turn off your object snap to place it, and then F3, turn your object snap back on. Okay, so now let's go back to paper space, and we can turn off those construction lines. Okay, so that gives us a little bit more space, looks a little bit better. Now we need to put in the diameter of the hole and the location for the hole. So let's do the location first. So we need a linear dimension from this corner to the top quadrant. And let's bring it up and let's align it with the 0.6 there. And so I can kind of hover over it and get a snap, drag my mouse to the right, put the text on the inside there, and place it so that it's aligned with the 0.6 dimension. I think I need to bring it down just a little bit. There we go. So I got that one. Now we want to do the diameter of the hole here. And so we need a diameter dimension. We click on the hole and pull our measurement up here and place it. And now we want to, we got to change the decimal precision on it. So we select it and then right click and go precision. And let's make that 3 decimal places. And then we got to add a 2x to it. So we'll double click it. Okay. Now it's poking over into my extension line, so let's move it a little bit more. You may have to turn off your object snap to get it over there. Get it inside there a little bit. Nah, that's not looking too great. Sometimes you just have to cross over dimension lines. Turn off my ortho mode there. Because we really don't want leaders to be vertical or horizontal. And so I'm just going to pull it here to the outside. Okay, that's pretty much got the front view done. One of the, if you remember back in the tutorial videos and in your readings, smaller dimensions go to closer to the object, larger dimensions go further out. Okay, so you don't want dimension lines crossing anything else. Extension lines to cross is fine. Like here we've got 2 extension lines that cross each other. That's fine. This is not preferable, but sometimes you don't have much of a choice. I could have put it down here below and that would not have crossed anything. So that was looking pretty good there. So let's go to let me talk about why we did not dimension a 2.7 over here. When we apply tolerances, and if you look down in your title block, you see some generic tolerances or unspecified tolerances. And it depends on how many decimal places the dimension has. So no decimal places has a certain tolerance, 1 decimal place has a different tolerance, 2 has a different tolerance, like that. The tighter the tolerance means the more costly it is to manufacture. Okay. And when you start adding tolerances to dimensions, because you have to think about these things, because when they manufacture this, it is not going to be exactly 6.00 inches long. Okay, according to this, it could be plus or minus 0.02 inches. So the overall length of this thing could be anywhere from 5.98 to 6.02 inches long. Okay. And so if we applied a tolerance to this and to this, and let's say we had a 2.7 dimension coming across, we would have three tolerances building up across there, which would mean we would be at plus or minus 0.06 instead of 0.02. And that totally conflicts with what we can have on the overall dimension that we've given. There's two options. One, we could put a 2.7 dimension across here and make it a reference dimension, meaning put parentheses around it so that it's a reference dimension. It is not to be used for tolerancing or manufacturing. It's for reference only. Or we just leave the least critical dimension out. Okay, and that's generally the way that it is done. So when we have a chain, I mean the 2.7 and the 0.6, and we came on across with another 2.7, we would leave one of those out, whichever one is the least critical. And usually that decision will be made by the engineer or the designer that's supervising the work that you're doing. So when we're doing chain dimensioning, we do not dimension all the way across. Okay. All right, let's go to the side view here, and let's put in our 0.75 at the top here. Object snap. Point 4 out, and let's do a continue, or not a continue, a baseline dimension for the overall depth, okay, of 3. And now let's do an overall height. Of 3.25, and we could snap it there and move that out 0.4. And then grab the handle for the text and kind of pull it up back to the middle. Okay, so that's got our side view done. Okay, let's go to the top view, and we've just got a few dimensions to put here on the top view. We need a linear dimension for the slot. So let's go to linear. Come on. And since I was on the other drawing over there that I had open, since we're still dealing with a radius type of a thing here, we'll go to the quadrant point, and pull out. Well, this is going to be one of those weird ones. Well, just going to be a weird one. So we'll visually make it about 0.4. Okay. Yeah, you really would want to put a 2x in here. Okay. Now we need a radius for the end of the slot, and so we'll go radius dimension. And hit it and kind of pull it out and place it. And we need to edit this. We need a 4x, but then we need to change the precision on it to 3 decimal places. Okay, and now let's place another radius for this corner. And if you want to line these things up, you could come over here and hover and drag across. Okay. And since this one is kind of a larger fillet, let's change this one to the large diameters or the large radius style. And that will put the arrowhead on the inside there. Okay. And so that looks good. I think we've got everything there. So If you didn't put your notes in on a previous time, put your notes in. I adjusted them and moved them down so that they're in the space next to the title block. Revise your title block with the new drawing number and new date, and save that file. Submit it in Blackboard, and then when you come in to do your in-class assignment, you're going to be printing this drawing. So read ahead in Blackboard, and either bring it with you, email it to yourself, or have it in the cloud somewhere where you can download that. Okay, and if you have any issues or problems, give us, send us an email, and then we will get you figured out with it.